September 12, 1942. Captain Lieutenant Werner Hartenstein stood on his U-boat's conning tower, watching dawn break over the South Atlantic. His submarine had just torpedoed the British ship Laconia. Standard procedure was simple: dive immediately and leave the area before Allied forces arrived. But as Hartenstein scanned the water through his binoculars, he saw something that made him freeze. Hundreds of people in the water. Women, children, and he could hear voices calling out in Italian. Italy was Germany's ally. Those were Allied soldiers drowning. Hartenstein faced an impossible choice: leave them to die and stay safe, or surface his submarine and attempt a rescue that violated every rule of submarine warfare. He made his decision. He ordered U-156 to surface and begin pulling survivors aboard. What Hartenstein didn't know was that the Laconia had been carrying over 1,800 Italian prisoners of war in addition to British military personnel and civilians. His torpedo had killed them all indiscriminately. Now, as survivors bobbed in the water calling for help, Hartenstein couldn't simply sail away. His crew began hauling people onto the submarine's deck, first dozens, then scores, British and Italian alike. The submarine's deck became crowded with shivering survivors wrapped in blankets, but there were over 2,000 people in the water, and U-156 could only hold so many. Hartenstein needed help. He did something unprecedented. He broadcast an open message in plain language, not code, giving his position and asking any Allied ships in the area to assist with rescue operations. He promised not to attack rescue vessels. He gave his word as a naval officer that this would be humanitarian, not military. German Naval Command was horrified. Broadcasting your position, promising not to attack. This was madness. But Hartenstein didn't wait for permission. He organized his crew into rescue teams. Lifeboats were gathered and tied to the submarine. The injured received medical care. His crew shared food and water with people who had been enemies minutes before. 2 other German U-boats heard Hartenstein's calls and arrived to help. For 2 days, an unprecedented rescue operation unfolded. U-156 alone pulled nearly 200 survivors onto its deck and into its cramped interior. The submarine, designed for 52 crew, now carried over 250 people. Every space was filled. The torpedo room, engine room, crew quarters. People were packed so tightly that movement was almost impossible. Hartenstein created a large Red Cross flag from bed sheets and paint, displaying it prominently on the conning tower. Under maritime law, vessels conducting humanitarian rescue were supposed to be immune from attack. He believed Allied forces would respect that. On September 16, his faith was shattered. An American B-24 bomber spotted U-156 on the surface. The pilot, Lieutenant James Hardin, saw the submarine, the crowds on deck, the Red Cross flag, and the lifeboats being towed. He radioed for instructions. The response was clear: attack. The submarine was a legitimate target. The war wouldn't stop for humanitarian gestures. Hardin made several passes over the submarine. Survivors waved. They held up children. They displayed white flags. Hartenstein flashed messages in English, explaining the situation. They all believed the pilot would see this was a rescue operation and hold fire. They were wrong. The first bombs missed the submarine but struck lifeboats, killing survivors who had just been rescued. Explosions threw people into the water. Chaos erupted. Hartenstein, realizing his submarine was about to be destroyed, made the most agonizing decision of his life. He ordered the lifeboats cut loose. He ordered survivors on deck into the water. And he ordered U-156 to dive. The submarine descended with some survivors still clinging to the conning tower. They were washed off as the boat submerged. leaving behind the people Hartenstein had spent 2 days saving. The American bomber continued attacking, strafing lifeboats with machine gun fire. When it ended, dozens of rescued people were dead, killed not by the torpedo that sank their ship, but by Allied bombs after they had been saved. The other German U-boats abandoned their rescue efforts immediately. They cut loose lifeboats, ordered survivors off, and Dove, the unprecedented humanitarian operation, ended in blood. Of over 2,000 original survivors, only about half were eventually rescued, primarily by French ships that arrived later. Over 1,000 died. Admiral Karl Donitz, commander of the U-boat fleet, was furious when he learned what happened. Not at Hartenstein, but at what it revealed: that humanitarian gestures would be punished, that rescue operations would be attacked. Donitz issued the Laconia Order, forbidding German U-boats from attempting to rescue survivors. No exceptions. No humanitarian efforts. Sink ships and leave immediately. The order effectively ended any pretense of rules in submarine warfare. After the war, at Nuremberg, Donitz was charged with war crimes, partially based on the Laconia Order. He defended himself by pointing to the incident when Hartenstein attempted humanitarian rescue and was bombed for it. It proved rescue was impossible. The tribunal found Donitz guilty but acknowledged the Laconia incident as a significant factor. The Allies had set a precedent by attacking rescue operations. Lieutenant Harden, who bombed the rescue operation, was following orders. He was never charged. From the Allied perspective, he'd done his duty, attacking an enemy submarine. The fact it was conducting rescue was militarily irrelevant, but survivors who were on U-150 SIX's deck when the bombs fell saw it differently. They had been rescued by their enemy. A German commander had risked everything to save Allied lives. Then Allied aircraft bombed them, killing the very people the Germans were trying to save. It revealed how total war had eroded every humanitarian principle. Werner Hartenstein didn't survive the war. His submarine was sunk in March 1943 with all hands. But before his death, his detailed reports about the Laconia incident changed submarine warfare forever. The lesson military forces drew was brutal. Don't be humanitarian in wartime. Don't rescue enemy survivors. Don't display Red Cross flags expecting them to be respected. The Laconia incident taught both sides that total war meant total ruthlessness. Hartenstein had tried to be both warrior and humanitarian. He tried to follow military duty and moral conscience. He discovered you can't do both in total war. You have to choose. He chose humanity. And he was punished for it, not by his own command, but by the enemy he was trying to help. The tragedy of the Laconia wasn't just that it happened, but what it revealed. That in total war, humanity is a liability. That mercy will get you killed. That the side abandoning ethics first has tactical advantage over those maintaining them. These are terrible lessons, but they're the lessons World War II taught, and the Laconia incident was one classroom where those lessons were learned in blood. Today, the incident is studied as a case study in warfare ethics. It raises questions about when military necessity overrides humanitarian obligation, about individual versus institutional responsibility, about whether rules can exist in total war or whether war destroys all rules, leaving only survival. Werner Hartenstein believed there should be rules, that even between enemies, there were lines you didn't cross. Leaving thousands to drown when you could help was a line he wouldn't cross. So he surfaced. He rescued 90 people. He broadcast for help. He displayed the Red Cross. He did everything a humanitarian could do, and he was bombed for it. That's the tragedy of the Laconia. In trying to save lives, Hartenstein proved that in total war, there's no room for mercy. Only survival. Only victory. Only the brutal mathematics of kill or be killed. The Red Cross flag that should have protected him became meaningless. The traditions of maritime rescue that should have been honored were ignored, and the people he tried to save died anyway. Caught between two sides that had both decided humanity was a luxury they couldn't afford.